राकेश, इसका यूट्यूब का लिंक मेरे को व्हाट्सएप पे शेयर करना। हेलो राकेश।
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good, good.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Welcome. Very good evening, sir.
Very good evening to you too.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, Namaskar, Dr. Mashelkar.
Good evening. How are you, Dr. Prem Singh?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you so much.
Prem Singh ji, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, good evening. And by the way, sir, I'm yet to become a doctor. But now that you have called me doctor, it gives me a very positive motivation that I should become one.
Of course, of course. By the way, I have 44 honorary doctorates. So I can definitely give some of them to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, sir.
Wonderful to see you.
Likewise, sir. And my management team, they still remember your lecture that you joined us last year.
Yes,
And
yes.
we still have very fond memories of that.
Yes, yes, yes. I remember that.
Hello,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Mashkar, welcome to this program.
Dr. Ashok Bapna, good evening. Dr. Mashelkar, Dr. Ashok Bapna is speaking, part of the executive team of NHRD in Jaipur chapter.
Yes, yes, of course. Ashok ji, I just spoke to him half an hour ago.
Good evening. I'm Mariam Abu Haidari, an animal rights defender, a content strategist and education consultant, and the Chief Communications Officer at Smile for All, an NGO working pan-India to provide education to some of the most vulnerable groups of children, those that live in slums and in extreme poverty. I have the pleasure to be your host for the duration of the 7th Professor Udai Pareek Memorial Lecture, an absolute honor. It is quite unfortunate that we have to meet virtually and not in person. But on the plus side, I get to reach out to so many of you brilliant HR professionals. We have an insightful lineup for you today, but I still wanted to present our young audience with a few thoughts that I hope will stay with you. Let every action be guided by kindness and empathy towards all living beings. In today's diverse marketplace, it isn't enough to just think about ourselves and profitability, but also the impact of our actions on the planet and all its inhabitants. Fostering a healthy, empathetic, and happy work environment should be your #1 priority, as you're not just responsible for people while they're at work, but the mood and feelings they return home with. I'm sure you agree. And now on to today's agenda. We're here to honor the father of the HR movement in the country, Professor Udai Pareek, whose work in the field has and will continue to inspire many of us. Please stand up now for the code of conduct, which will be read to us by Mr. Prem Singh, the Regional President of the NHRDN North and President of JK Organization.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. It's indeed a privilege to be joining the celebrated and very accomplished leaders this evening. It's my honor to read out the Code of Conduct for National HRD Network. I will always strive to meet the highest evolving standards of competence in the profession and add value to the organizational success. I will deal with all stakeholders with utmost integrity and create an environment of trust, leading to the ethical success of my organization. I will ensure that I'm always reliable and consistent in all my actions by accepting responsibility for my decisions and actions, thereby creating credibility for my profession and myself. I'll be objective in all my actions and decisions and foster fairness with firmness. I will conduct myself in a way that facilitates growth and development of all those I'm responsible for. I will strive to be a role model for all others and champion exemplary practice of HR profession. I will respect the rights of privacy and will not use my position for personal gains and ensure that there is no conflict of interest in what I do with any of my stakeholders. Thank you very much. Back to you, to the Master of Ceremony.
Singh. Thank you. And now we will honor Professor Pareek with a flower tribute. I request the President, Vice President, Secretary, Joint Secretary, Treasurer, Chairman of the Udai Pareek Foundation, and Dr. Surbi Purohit to offer the tribute and light the lamp. That's how we always start. Please join us. Thank you. Yes. Please join us for the flower tribute. If there's anybody else, please come forward to the flower tribute. How wonderful to see a young audience here as well. Great. I now have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Surabhi Purohit, member of the Executive Board of the Jaipur chapter of NHRDN, to present a tribute to Professor Pareek and read out the governor's message. Please join us, ma'am.
Thank you, Mariam. Good evening, everyone. Now, before I pay tribute to my father, I would like to read out the message which has been sent by His Excellency, the Governor. मुझे ये जानकर प्रसन्नता हुई है कि उदय पारीक एचआरडी रिसर्च फाउंडेशन द्वारा 7वीं उदय पारीक स्मृति व्याख्यान माला का ऑनलाइन आयोजन आपके स्तर पर किया जा रहा है। मानव संसाधन प्रबंधन का लक्ष्य ही किसी प्रतिष्ठान या संगठन के कर्मचारियों को आकर्षित कर उन्हें बरकरार रखने के साथ ही प्रबंधन कौशल के जरिए उनसे लक्ष्यों का समयबद्ध पालन करना ही है। इस दृष्टि से आज के समय की ये सबसे बड़ी आवश्यकता है। किसी भी संगठन, संस्था और व्यवसाय का प्रभावी प्रबंधन मानव संसाधन की व्यवहारिक सोच से ही किया जा सकता है। स्वर्गीय उदय पारीक जी मानव संसाधन प्रबंधन के मर्मज्ञ विद्वान रहे हैं। देश विदेश में उन्होंने इस संबंध में महती योगदान दिया है। उनकी स्मृति को जीवंत रखने आप द्वारा व्याख्यान श्रृंखला का आयोजन अनुकरणीय है। आयोजन के लिए मेरी स्वस्तिक कामना है। Good evening, everyone. I can always on my mind and forever in my heart. This is so true about my father. I can very proudly say that Uday Pareek was a great father. Every moment I spent with him was a learning experience for me. He taught me the meaning and importance of HRD and OB in such a simple manner, in simple words. Although I am not from this field, I'm not a HR person, but gradually I got interested in HR and started taking classes in OB way back in 1990s in IHMR. He was a true leader who influenced the life of every individual he met in one way or the other. Many training workshops were successfully conducted under his guidance and supervision. One such training workshop was also conducted in different centers of the police station. And Shiprapat police station was awarded as the best police station in Jaipur. He was extremely accomplished, clear, and transparent in his values and beliefs. He was a man of principles and ethics. He was also remarkably humble, kind, generous, respectful, and very caring. He always maintained a balance between his professional life and his personal family life. He was a self-proclaimed atheist who did not believe in the afterlife. It is remarkable that he donated his body for the medical research. How fitting that he should donate his remains for research to possibly improve the health of others in this world, not the next. He, even after death, continued his legacy with his generosity. Just to quote a few lines from his will. When I die, or am about to die, the famous text of Mr. Robert Test, as appeared in the Cincinnati Post, should be utilized to dispose my body. If there are further scientific developments, they may be incorporated to utilize the remains. I donate my body to the hospital for use of my organs, for the needy, and for the research and teaching. Give my sight to the man who has never seen a sunrise, a baby's face, or love in the eyes of a woman. Give my heart to a person whose own heart has caused nothing but endless days of pain. Give my blood to the teenager who was pulled out from the wreckage of his car so that he might live to see his grandchildren play. Give my kidneys to one who depends on a machine to exist from week to week. Take my bones, every muscle, every fiber and nerve in my body and find a way to make a crippled child walk. Explore every corner of my brain. Take my cells, if necessary, and let them grow so that someday a speechless boy will shout at the crack of a bat and a deaf girl will hear the sound of rain against her window. If you must bury something, let it be my faults, my weaknesses, and all prejudices against my fellow men. If by chance you wish to remember me, do it with a kind deed of words to someone who needs you. If you do all I have asked, I will live forever. I am an atheist and have no faith in God or religion. I would not like any religious rituals or formal mourning gathering to be held on my death. No paid announcements may be made on my death in the newspapers. Now, such an agile mind and intellect. I will always cherish my interactions with him as a professional, as a father, as a guide, as a mentor. He was a role model for me. He was everything to me. He had innumerable qualities which made him different from others. Just to name a few, simplicity. We all know he was such a simple person. He never bothered about his attire or footwear. His favorite dress was kurta pajama and slippers. He could go anywhere in that dress. He could go to a informal party or whether it be a formal party, he could go anywhere in that dress. He was a rare combination of intelligence and diligence. I have witnessed him getting up 3 o'clock in the morning and working on his books, journals, articles. He was a highly dedicated, committed, and punctual, and very, very punctual. I remember once when he had to conduct a viva in the Department of Psychology, a PhD viva, and just before leaving for the viva, he slipped and he broke his shoulder bone. And at that time, it was around 12 o'clock in the noon, and the viva was to be conducted at 12:30. So fortunately, I was there, and I told him, let's go to the doctor. He said, no, we can't go to the doctor because I have to take the viva. I said, we can go, I will just give a call to the person, supervisor, and inform them. He said, no, nothing doing, either you take me there or I can go on my own. So I drove him to the department, and he conducted the viva. And after that, we went to the doctor, and the doctor said there was a fracture in the shoulder bone. So this was the kind of commitment he had, and very punctual about time. And then he was very much against wasting of time. So he immediately joined Vipassana for 10 days. And in the meantime, his shoulder bone had healed. Then on another incident, I remember when he had broken his hip bone, he wrote a book during that period, that tenure. When he was on bed, he could not move around, along with Professor T.V. Rao. Even in the last days, sorry? Okay. During the last days also, when he was in the ICU, he was panting, he was not able to speak properly, but he was concerned about his commitments. And he used to call his secretary, he used to write on paper and asked about his commitments, that they should be completed. He was a music lover. He loved every bit of life. He enjoyed life. He used to laugh like a child. He used to play with children, and he could go down. If he was with a child, he would go down to that level. If he was with an adult, he would, converse in that manner. I think the biggest tribute that I can pay to him is Not Let the Things Die, which he had started and which were close to him. The book Training Instruments in HRD and OD is a collection of his rich experiences worldwide, which was very close to him. So I continue to work on this book. I would be very happy if I could really imbibe even 10% of his qualities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Purohit. What a beautiful and heartwarming tribute. I think when I pass, I believe I would also like to have a celebration of life and death. Mr. S.V. Nathan was to shed light on the many contributions of Professor Udai Pareek. However, he had a commitment he could not be excused from, and has requested that I read the note that he sent on his behalf. Mr. Nathan is a partner in...
Excuse me, ma'am. Mr. Nathan is here. Excuse me.
Is he
He's
here?
here. Yes, yes, please.
Okay, great.
Over to Nathan, please.
I think you should still go ahead and read it. It's perfectly okay. Kindly go ahead. I excuse myself from a meeting. It's very important to be present at this meeting. So kindly, please read the note.
I'm glad, but
Thank you.
didn't you want to do the reading yourself?
No, it's perfectly okay. Carry on, ma'am. It's perfectly okay.
Okay, so let me first introduce him. Mr. Nathan is a partner and the Chief Talent Officer of Deloitte, South Asia, and he had also served on the board of the National HR Development Network and as its National Secretary. He currently serves as the chairman of the Sumidhas, a not-for-profit education and research body devoted to organizational development. Okay, Dr. Udai Pareek was a doyen of HRD movement in the country. He was an internationally acclaimed and academician who sowed seeds of HRD in India and gave a new dimension of HR and OB discipline in terms of HRD integrated systems. My colleagues in the NHRDN thought it appropriate to remember his stellar contributions and acknowledge his valuable investments to the body of knowledge of HR. The baton of responsibility to the NHRDN has been with the Jaipur chapter. I'm glad to place on record that the chapter has undertaken this responsibility for over a decade. Distinguished speakers at this annual lecture in the past include Professor T.V. Rao, Padma Shri Dr. Preetam Singh, Padma Shri Govardhan Mehta, Padma Vibhushan Dr. Raghunath Anant Mashelkar, Padma Vibhushan Professor K. Kasturi Rangan, and Padma Vibhushan Professor M.B. Atreya in a befitting tribute to valuable contributions of Professor Udai Pareek. If I butchered the names, please forgive me. I'm glad to inform you that this year, the Jaipur chapter has been able to attract two very outstanding personalities, Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director of Hindustan Unilever Limited, South Asia, from the corporate sector, and Padma Vibhushan Dr. Raghunath Anant Mashelkar, National Research Professor and Chairman of the National Innovation Foundation. The Jaipur chapter continues to be a leading light in their ability to attract the best in the industry, and I commend the Jaipur chapter for its consistent efforts under the leadership of their president, Dr. Ashok Bapna. I wish the Jaipur chapter all the very best and look to them for sustaining this wonderful Professor Udai Pareek Memorial Lecture for many years to come. Should I say thank you to myself now? Thank you. Thank you for that note, Mr. Nathan. Next up, I request Mr. Apurv Kumar, Chairman of the Udai Pareek HRD Research Foundation, to introduce us to the vision and mission of the HRD Research Foundation. Mr. Kumar is also the Managing Director of the prestigious Clarks Group of Hotels and alumni of some of the world's most premier education institutions, the Doon School, the Xavier's Institute of Management, the Harvard Business School, and Cornell Hotel School. Mr. Kumar has had an illustrious foundation to his career in the hospitality sector and has also won many awards for his outstanding contribution to the industry. Most recently, in 2021, he was honored with the Maharaja Vishan Singh Award for his excellence in the field of travel and tourism and museum development in October 2021. He is the president and CEO of the National US-India Chamber of Commerce, Asia headquarters, president of the Federation of the Hospitality and Tourism of Rajasthan, and so many more. What interests me, though, is that he enjoys capacity building and education, which are a huge passion for Mr. Kumar. Small wonder then that he has created the Clark's Center of Excellence, which provides a one-year diploma in professional hotel education to children coming from economically weak backgrounds. His experiences in hospitality and management span over 30 years. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Apurv Kumar.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to personally thank His Excellency, Honorable Governor of Rajasthan, Shri Kalraj Mishra Ji, for his message on the occasion of the 7th Udai Pareek Memorial Oration. In the last 2 years, Raj Bhavan has become a people's Bhavan, where he has allowed access to all citizens. His constant emphasis on the Constitution and his contribution towards the development of the tribal youth will always be remembered. We sincerely send him our best wishes on the occasion. Jaipur chapter of NHRDN was founded way back in 1980 by Professor Udai Pareek. The aim of the trust was to enable exchange of ideas, thoughts, provide learning resources, and a forum where HR professionals could engage. The vision and mission of the trust is to provide awards, fellowships, scholarships, and to undertake research projects. The chapter has been growing fast, and it has a strong linkage with established institutes. This year, NHRDN has decided to contribute to tourism, as it is one of the world's most important economic sectors. It employs 1 in every 10 people on earth and provides livelihood to hundreds of millions more. That is why it has been so painful to see how tourism has been devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Our objective is to make every tourist brand ambassador of our city, state, and our country. I am confident that with the initiative of NHRDN, we will be able to make a remarkable positive change in experiences of our travelers. I have had the experience of working with Professor C.K. Prahlad when he was making the vision for India at 75, and have been exposed to his concept of fortune is at the bottom of the pyramid. The vision of Dr. Abdul Kalam of providing urban amenities to rural areas has been inspiring all citizens of India. And now I'm looking forward to the talk by Mr. Sanjay Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director of Hindustan Unilever, who has a deep understanding of the rural economy of India and this brittle anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible world. Dr. Raghunath Anant Mashelkar, Chairman of National Innovation Foundation, is an outstanding scientist of our country. When Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji announced his vision of IT for India, Dr. Mashelkar elaborated IT as Indian talent and not information technology. I recommend his book, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting. Sir, your journey of life will always be inspiring all generations. Mr. Sanjay Mehta and Dr. Mashelkar are iconic leaders of our incredible India, and we thank them for accepting our invitation for this occasion. I'll leave you with a line applicable to leaders in all walks of life. We invest our today so that you may have a better tomorrow, as the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. The goals are quite visionary, I must say, and also noble, but coming from you, it should not surprise anyone. Now, Professor Ashok Bapna will brief us about the Jaipur chapter and also introduce our chief guest, Mr. Sanjeev Mehta. Apart from being the president of the Jaipur NHRDN chapter since 2007, Professor Bapna has had an illustrious career as professor of economics and a development professional. I particularly find it interesting that he has been responsible for initiating dialogue on UN's Millennium Development Goals, both at the state and national level, followed by UNDP's Sustainable Development Goals. He has edited a number of publications and authored about a dozen books relating to issues on alternative development model and also on sustainable human development, and traveled widely across continents, returning back to his home with stories that I'm sure are worth listening to. Please join us.
Thank you, Miriam. Chairman, Padma Bhushan, Dr. Mashelkar, Indian National Research Professor, Chief Guest, Shri Sanjeev Mehta, Chairman and Managing Director, Hindustan Unilever Limited, Mr. S.V. Nathan, National President, NHRDN, and Partner and Chief Talent Officer, Deloitte, Shri Apur Kumar, Chairman, Udai Pareek, HRD Research Foundation, and Managing Director, Clark's Group of Hotels, Dr. Ashok Agarwal, Founding Trustee, IIHMR, Jaipur, and Udai Pareek, HRD Research Foundations, distinguished personalities from the corporate sector, academicians, administrators, and policy planners, executive members of the NHRDN headquarters and Jaipur chapter, and young students. It is a rare occasion when we have such a huge gathering to hear Mr. Sanjeev Mehta and Dr. Mashelkar. We were hoping for the participation of 500 scholars, but the number has bypassed our expectation. It is such an overwhelming response, as by now we have a registration of more than 1,500 people. It speaks of the popularity of these two distinguished speakers. This special program is organized in honor of Professor Udai Pareek, who was the father of HRD movement in the country. He passed away on 21st January 2010 after leading an eventful life. He willed that his body should be donated to a medical institution after his death. What could be a better example of a person believing in the service of the mankind, not only while one is alive, but also after one's death? To celebrate a life of such an outstanding scholar, the NHRDN at the national level decided to hold the Udai Pareek Memorial Lecture, and this responsibility was given to Jaipur chapter. We in turn have been able to attract outstanding scholars to deliver this most coveted lecture. In the past, we have had the pleasure of hearing amidst us Professor T.V. Rao, Padma Shri Dr. Preetam Singh, Padma Shri Professor Gordon Mehta, Padma Bhushan Professor R.M. Mashelkar, Padma Bhushan Professor K. Kasturirangan, and Padma Bhushan Professor M.V. Atre. The thrust of these lectures has been on leadership, employability, skilling young India, and digital India. They had spoken on issues leading to challenges to modern management education, for which late Professor Pareek had strived hard through his writings and is one of the founder of NHRDN in the country. Therefore, these special memorial lectures are befitting tributes to his valuable contributions. One of the key concerns that emerged in recent times is issue of employability. It is estimated that at the global level, aging of world economy would create a skilled manpower shortage of 56.6 million, but India alone would have a surplus of 47 million. Hence, India is set to reap the benefit of demographic dividend with its huge working age population, provided its youth is competent and employable. Having realized these concerns, we decided to invite this year leading scholar from a corporate world, and fortunately, Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Chairman HUL, was kind enough to agree to our invitation, although it wasn't easy to get him amidst this very busy schedule. I have had the privilege of reading and listening to a few of his thoughts, provoking and very insightful interviews and speeches. He is not only a champion of the corporate world, but one of the most impressive visionary leaders, and we are delighted to have him amidst us this evening. Today is also special because we have another luminary in form of Professor R.A. Mashelkar, National Research Professor and outstanding scientist of the country, to preside over today's event. Professor Mashelkar has been honored with the highest civilian awards in the form of Padma Shri in 1991, Padma Bhushan in 2000, and Padma Vibhushan in 2014, in recognition of his contribution to national building. He is consistently engaged in his research work, and it appears he will never retire. We are lucky to have amidst us to preside over this speech lecture. It is his humility that he has never said no to my invitation. Indeed, I am extremely grateful to him, sir. Moving to our keynote speaker, I am delighted to formally introduce Mr. Sanjeev Mehta. He is the chairman and managing director of one of the leading corporates globally, Hindustan Unilever Limited, South Asia. During his years at HUL, the market capitalization of the eco company has increased from $17 billion to over $17 billion, making HUL one of the most valuable companies in the country. Forbes has rated HUL as the most innovative company in India and 8th most innovative company in the world. Have it in a global study rated HUL as the 3rd best company globally for building leaders. All these accolades and achievements have been earned under Mr. Mehta's dynamic and visionary leadership. Mr. Mehta is on the board of directors of Indian School of Business, president of Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and member of the South Asian Advisory Board at Harvard Business School. He chairs Exantos Vikasa Oration, which includes some of the top Indian companies and MNCs working towards UN's Sustainable Development Goals. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute honor to invite Sanjeev Mehta to deliver 7th Udai Pareek Memorial Lecture on leadership and organization in BANI world. Sanjeev Mehta.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and absolute pleasure and honor. And it goes without saying what a great man Dr. Udai Pareek was. And, you know, Dr. Bapna, thank you so much for your generous introduction. It's a very special day when I have to share my thoughts in presence of Dr. Mashelkar, who is in many ways my hero. And Dr. Mashelkar, thank you so much for being here. So what I'm going to do today is take about 20 odd minutes to share my thoughts on how are the organizations evolving or how they need to evolve, and what does leadership mean in a BANI world. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, if we look around, there was a time when one of the Fed governors talked about the 80s and 90s, and even the first few years of this millennium as a period of great moderation. Now, since then, the world has been changing at a pretty rapid pace. Whether we talk about the pandemic, whether we have all realized the implications of climate change, right now we are going through perhaps a super cycle on commodities with unprecedented inflation. Startups, which are in many ways shows the power of the new India, shows the power of entrepreneurship, but also in many ways it threatens the incumbents. Then we are seeing the great resignations. People who are talented and skilled, they have several offers, but there are a huge number of people, as I think it was Mr. Nathan who was, or Mr. Kumar, who was talking about the number of unemployed in the world, which is such a big issue for us. The next chart, please. Now, VUCA was a word or an acronym which was determined by the US Army just after the end of the Cold War. And that was the period when NATO did not have the classical army in Warsaw Pact countries. And they said the world has become volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Now, this is something which was also adopted by the management people for many years. And recently, an American futurist, author, and anthropologist, a gentleman called Jamias Cascio, he has coined an acronym called BANI. And BANI stands for a world which is brittle, anxious, non-linear, and in many ways incomprehensible. If you look at what we have undergone in the last 2 years, it really brings to life the BANI world. The next chart, please. Now, in a context where it's a BANI world, we have to put our employees center stage. At Hindustan Unilever, we always believe that our two of our greatest assets are our brands and our people. And now I've added a third to it, which is data. But at the end of the day, we must understand harnessing data or making great brands, it is done by people. And that's why it is so important to be an organization which can retain, nurture great talent. Now, we believe in Hindustan Unilever that you have to be a values-led, purpose-driven company. You have to ensure the holistic well-being of employees, not just the physical, but the emotional, but the spiritual well-being. We have also realized and started recognizing the emergence of frontline workers. Now, this gentleman whom you see on the slide, this was during the first wave of the COVID, when most of us were ensconced in our homes. He used to go to our factory every day and he used to make soaps. And in one of my virtual visits to the factory, I asked him that, does your family allow you to go to the factory? Yeah, because there was fear everywhere. And he said, yes, मैं रोज निकलता हूँ अपने घर से दुकान फैक्ट्री में जाता हूँ क्योंकि मैं देश के लिए साबुन बना रहा हूँ जो देश को बचा रहा है. Just think of it. Here is a humble blue collar worker and the purpose of his life was to save the nation. The other important bit is we have to understand that the days of coming 5 days or 6 days a week, 9 to 5 are gone. It is going to be a hybrid work. And we must also understand that we should not write an obituary of work from office, because you need office. And that's a place where it's not just about co-location. It harnesses collaboration. It allows you to innovate much better. You can look people in the eye and share thoughts and your feelings. But each organization, every individual would have to find the new balance in the world, which is certainly going to remain hybrid. And of course, technology is now all pervasive. It is not linked to a few sectors, but it has encapsulated all human endeavors. The next chart, please. Now, you know, when I travel across universities, when I reach out to students, one of the biggest things which attracts the students to Hindustan Unilever is not a market cap. It is not a 50,000 crore of turnover. It is a purpose. And a purpose is so simple. It is to make sustainable living commonplace. So I think it's extremely important, whether you're a corporation or you're an individual, you need to have a purpose which goes beyond making money. As individuals, we can make a difference to the society, a difference to the nation. And as a corporation, we need to have a purpose which excites people, which inspires people, which makes them get up from their bed every day and go excited to work. And this purpose has to be beyond money. This certainly stems from, if we go back to the origins of the business were to solve certain critical problems the society faced. We should never forget that. The next chart, please. Now, coming from this, what I would like to share with you is certain thoughts about how organizations are evolving in a BANI world. So I'll pick up 6 critical elements of the BANI world and what organizations need to do in this environment. The next chart, please. First is leading for purpose. Yeah, it's so important. In Unilever, we have 3 fundamental beliefs. Our beliefs are that companies with purpose last. Now, Unilever is an organization which has survived for over 100 years in a world where S&P 500 companies, the average life is about 20 years. Brands with purpose grow and people with purpose thrive. These are our 3 fundamental beliefs which drives Unilever. And what we have been doing is not only we articulate the organization purpose, but we help our employees find their purpose and help them to live their purpose. So 16,000 of our employees have gone through purpose workshops, which helps them identify who they are, and what really excites them in life, and we help them live that purpose. The next chart, please. Now, purpose is not just restricted to an organization. Our brands, they have purpose at the core. Take Red Label, Brook Bond. You know, we are the market leaders in tea. Swad apne pan ka. This goes back to the founding father of the Brook Bond brand, where he said that you can bridge differences over a great cup of tea. And if you look at our communication over the years, that's what it has done. It has bridged societal differences. Or if you look at Surf Excel, again, we are the leader in laundry, and this is our biggest brand. Surf Excel talks about daag achhe hain, and this manifests itself in different ways. This is all about let your children go and play, let them get dirty, because if they don't get dirty, they won't learn, they won't grow up. But don't worry, there's Surf Excel to look after the stains. So that's where daag achhe hain comes across. Yeah, similarly, Dove. Dove is all about real beauty. It is about women's self-esteem. And that's how you make great brands. So it is not just about the functional attributes, but it is about the purpose of the brands which makes a brand stand out. The next chart, please. Now, the second is you need to design your organization for agility and resilience. Now, what do I mean by agility? Now, this is a word which is very often used. You need speed, you need agility in the organization. I have to demystify it, agility means first, the speed with which you can recognize opportunities and challenges. The second important bit is once you have recognized opportunity or challenges, what do you need to do about it? So the second is about taking decision about it. And the third important bit is executing or acting on it. That's what you need to do to make an organization survive in the current world. Gone are the placid waters. Yeah, things have changed. Your consumers are changing. Your channels are evolving. Your competitors are changing. In this world, you do need speed and agility. The second important bit is delegating to the edge or empowering your front line. At the end of the day, we must believe that human beings, they have infinite capacity, and every organization harnesses a very small quantum of that. If we train our people, if we skill them, and if we empower them, that is when the magic happens. The important bit is when you look at it, Dr. Mashelkar is here. He's the authority on R&D and innovation. And that's something, he often talks about, I completely endorse, he's not a great fan of Jugaad. And I also feel that's an albatross around the neck. And Jugaad means, in Dr. Mashelkar's words, less for less. And what we need in the country is more for less. Yeah. And that's what we need in the country. And one of the things that we need to do is a culture of experimentation, a culture of risk taking. That's where entrepreneurship comes in. The third important bit is skilling up your people. Yeah, this is about upskilling. This is about reskilling. And even in an environment, we are on a path where the future HUL will be dramatically different from HUL which existed a couple of years back. We are converting HUL in perhaps what would be the most intelligent consumer goods enterprise with data and technology center stage. Now, in this bit, when you bring in technology, when you digitize your factories, you're bound to lose many jobs. That's natural to happen. But so long as you can skill them, you can reskill them, and you can make them future ready, they would be able to land another jobs. So even if you do restructuring, you have to do in a very responsible manner, and you have to ensure that all your people become future fit. The next chart, please. Now, I just shared with you that how we are on a journey to make HUL an intelligent enterprise. There was a time when it was a very linear yesterday. We used to source, manufacture, distribute, and sales. Now we are creating ecosystem. There is a consumer ecosystem, there is a customer ecosystem, there is an operation ecosystem with data technology center stage. Now we are a company which reaches 95% of the households in the country, selling our products 8 million stores. And every year we manufacture and sell 50 billion units. Just imagine the kind of data we generate in the country. Yeah, and that data we are harnessing now to set up the new ecosystems of the future, which will be the new competitive edge that will provide, new competitive moats that will provide to the HUL of future. The next chart, please. Now, the other is redesigning our work and experience. Now, every individual today, after having gone through the last 2 years of pandemic, desires flexibility. Flexibility doesn't mean that everyone would be wanting to work in a freelance approach. Certainly not. But at the same time, they want the security of a large corporation. And we have instituted Open to You, which is for any person who doesn't want, who's not a full-time employee of HUL, can come and work with us on certain projects, or you work where our employees who desire flexibility need not be working full-time, but they can be working on certain projects in a very agile fashion. Now, we need to create an environment which will allow employees to live their purpose, have the desired lifestyle, but still contribute to the goals and objectives of the organization. The next chart, please. The other is values. I spoke about in the very first beginning of the presentation that we believe we are a values-led, purpose-driven organization. Now, inclusion and values is something which is very dear to us. We want to become a beacon of inclusivity in the country. A few years back, when I took over as the role of the CEO of HUL, the number of women employees in the management were just about 18%. And now we are at a stage where 44% of our management employees are women. And in another couple of years, we will become gender balanced. For us, it's not about gender balance. We want to represent the consumer base of the country in the company. We want to be an inclusive from every aspect. Yeah, whether it is regions of the country, whether it is different religions of the country, whether it is different castes of the country, whether it is urban, rural backgrounds that you have, the thinking that you have. Only when we have a diverse and inclusive workforce would we remain the most innovative and experimentative company in the country. The next chart, please. The other I talked about is well-being, which is center stage. Yeah, unless we can focus on the holistic well-being of employees, we will never be able to get the best out of them. And over the last 2 years, in India still, there is a stigma attached to mental health. People never say that I'm depressed. Yeah, because they worry कि लोग सोचेंगे क्या पागल है. इसलिए they are never able to express. You know, about few years back, we set up that there is a mental health. You can just call up a doctor anonymously. You need not even disclose your identity and get the benefit of doctor's consultation and advice. And thousands of people have been accessing that helpline for themselves and their family members. Yeah, now we have to break these barriers. And, all this stigma we need to remove. Only then we would be able to get the best from our people. We have 60 full-time doctors in the company. And even 60 full-time doctors were not sufficient during the pandemic. That is when we started the concept of nightingales. So we have got over 130 nightingales, people who offer their services to the doctors to augment what the doctors do. Yeah, and that is how you're able to get the best out of employees. The next chart, please. Now, thinking of the entire ecosystem, now we have to look at it from a perspective of the community. Now, as a company, we will blossom only if the country in which we live, the society in which we live blossoms. And that is the reason why we are focusing our attention on not just upskilling and training our own people, but very importantly, we have got series of initiatives where we are providing training, skills, vocational and otherwise, to millions of people across the country. Because this is not just in our self-enlightened interest. This is also to ensure that the nation in which we live progresses, because in their progress lies our interest of growing our business and becoming a more successful enterprise. The next chart, please. The other is, you have to look at yourself that as a large company, as a responsible company, your role goes much beyond the confines of your own ecosystem. I'll give you a few examples. Now, Mission Hope was launched during the second wave when India was going through a severe oxygen crisis. Immediately, we sourced and flew 2 plane loads of oxygen concentrators in the country. And we instituted a practice whereby people could call a toll-free number, borrow it. We will have a doctor's reach there, train the person how to use. Once they finish the use, call us up, we'll take it back, we'll clean it up, and again redeploy. We were able to save thousands of lives, through our Project Hope. The second is the work that we do. We have now got over 136,000 Shakti Ammas who are micro entrepreneurs in deep rural areas, selling our products over 3,000 crores. Just imagine, when you empower a woman, you empower a family. What a difference it makes to women when you allow them, when you skill them, and when you allow them to earn their livelihood. Yeah, we have plastic. We, as a company, understanding that plastic litter is a big problem, we collect from the streets of the country more plastic waste than the plastics used in the packaging of our finished products. The other thing which I've not talked about, which we are very proud about, we've been working on 20,000 villages on water conservation. We have created a water potential of 1.3 trillion liters. That may be a drop in the ocean, but it is sufficient to meet the drinking water needs of the entire country for a year. The next chart, please. Now, how can leaders bring this alive? Now, I've talked about organization. I'll take a few minutes to talk about the leaders. How do they bring it alive? The next chart, please. Now, in a BANI world, what you require when it talks about brittleness, you need to counter it with resilience and purpose. When you have anxiety, you need to counter it with compassion and brutal optimism. What is brutal optimism? When there is a crisis, you don't go to your team and tell them there is no crisis. No. It in many ways is like a Churchillian paradox. Blood, toil, sweat, and tears, but ultimately we shall prevail. You tell the truth, but also as leaders tell them how you're going to lead them out of it. Non-linearity. We're talking about agility and adaptability. And when we talk about not being able to comprehend, it is about sense-making. Sense-making is an attribute where you're able to put disparate data together and make a sense out of it. This is so important in the new world. This is a trait which all good leaders would have to have. If you wait for perfect information, you may be too late. And you need to have that skill, the intuition to put together information and make a sense out of it. But most important, what leaders need is humility and ambition. Ambition can circumvent or cover up for lack of skills, resources, and talent. Yeah. And when you have ambition coupled with humility, then you have, it's a word coined by me, I have a trademark on it called ambition. Yeah. If you have ambition, then it becomes a very potent combination. The next chart, please. Now, I'll just share with you, this is the last chart on important bit is how HUL in the last 10 years have moved from $8 billion to over $70 billion as a market cap. Yeah, I'll talk about three axes. One is the growth mindset. You first win the battle of mind before you win the battle in the marketplace. The second is having distinctive capabilities which are hard to replicate. As a corporation or as a nation or as an individual, you need certain skills and attributes which will make you stand out. This is not about being as good. This is about being best in class. And the third is important bit is high performance anatomy. This is about culture. This is about performance management. This is about how you craft strategy. This is about execution. Once you do that, then you can create value. Many people in our country, the youngsters especially, yeah, they are focusing on valuation. I always tell them, don't focus on valuation. Focus on creating value. Valuation will follow. So that's what I wanted to share with all of you. And I don't know whether I've got time or not. In case I have time, I would be more than happy to take any questions you may have.
All right. I don't think we have time for questions, but how very insightful and relevant. Thank you, Mr. Mehta, for highlighting the importance of purpose. I hope our paths do cross again, and this time in person, so we can discuss our visions for a happy, compassionate, and socially inclusive India. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing to you the receiver of the Padma Vibhushan, Dr. Raghunath Anant Mashelkar. The Padma Vibhushan is the second highest civilian award of the Republic of India after the Bharat Ratna. Dr. R.A. Mashelkar is a national research professor and chairman of the National Innovation Foundation. He's presently also the president of the Global Research Alliance, a network of publicly funded research and development institutes from Asia Pacific, Europe, America, with over 60,000 scientists. In the post-liberalized India, Dr. Mashelkar has played a critical role in shaping India's science, technology, and innovation policies. He was a member of the Scientific Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, set up by successive governments, and therefore quite deserving of being honored with the Padma Shri in 1991 and with the Padma Vibhushan in 2000, followed by, and with the Padma Vibhushan in 2000, followed by the Padma Vibhushan in 2014, which are three of the highest civilian honors in recognition of his contribution to nation building. Welcome, sir. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to pay my humble tributes to legendary Professor Udai Pareek. It has been a great privilege and honor to listen to this fantastic memorial oration by my friend Sanjeev Mehta. I must say, I've never seen within 30 minutes so much of insight, so much of inspiration, so much of, I would say, infinite wisdom packed. I've learned so much. I must be sort of very honest with you. What are my learnings from what I have heard? I learned a lot. I think the first, Sanjeev, if you don't mind, you're young, I'm an old man, so if you don't mind, I'll call you by first name. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So Sanjeev, I think the first thing I want to sort of mention is HUL, Hindustan Unilever. Hindustan Unilever. I have been associated with it for so many years. I was on the board for 10 years, as you know. But most importantly, do you know when I got my first break? I got Leverhulme Research Fellowship as a postdoc research fellowship. And that, you know, was created by Lord Leverhulme. So our relationship, Sanjeev, goes back to 1969, 52 years I have been connected. That's the first part. I wanted to recognize that. The second part is that, Sanjeev, we nowadays talk about CSR, corporate social responsibility. I would say there are two, CSR 1.0 and CSR 2.0. I spelled it out in my K.R. Narayanan Memorial Oration in Canberra 3 years ago. What is CSR 1.0? You do very well, and then one day you said, I must do something for the society. So to create a trust, you create a foundation. That has helped me. I mean, just like Leverhulme, you know, as you know, I was born in a very poor family, studied under street lights, walked barefoot until I was 12. 2 meals a day was a challenge, but it was 60 rupees scholarship from Tata's, which actually helped me. Because Tata's trust was there, Tata Foundation was there, just at Leverhulme. So doing well and doing good. But what is CSR 2.0? Doing well by doing good. Doing good itself is a business. Like when you talked about Shakti Amma and having been on the board, you know, I have seen the transformation you were able to bring in. It's absolutely incredible. Self-confidence in those women. It was sort of amazing. So the basic issue with the corporates today, when we talk about compassion and the rest of it, is yes, fine, you can do well and doing good by Trust Foundation, whatever 2% CSR. I mean, they talk about 2% CSR now, but very frankly, compassion cannot be legitimized, to be honest. It has to come from within. And Hindustan, you always sort of had that. So all through your talk, you know, that come from the heart that we must do something basically came up. There is another interesting thing I want to tell you. 16 July 2013 was the day there was AGM of Hindustan Unilever. And Harish Mehta gave the AGM address. You know what was the title of his talk? Hookah word. And therefore he spelled out the entire thing in what strategy. So it is rather remarkable that after having heard the CMD a decade ago, I'm hearing you now, as a matter of fact, with regard to the new realities in terms of the BANI word. It is incredible. You had sort of tremendous insights sort of packed in what you said. The interesting point, and I agree with, as you can see, I have been taking notes all that you said. They are phenomenal messages, whether it is agility, scaling, inclusivity, and the rest of it. You know, I have been talking about 10 tenets of resilience, because in the boards now, resilience has become a talking point. It was not sort of 2 years ago. And the 10 tenets and they overlap with what you say actually. The first is adaptability. The second is agility. The third is resilient thinking. How do you design so that you are resilient? You know, I have been on the board of Reliance, for example, from 2007. Okay. There's a story about Dhirubhai Ambani when he wanted to start a refinery. People asked him what specification it should be. He said, I should be able to process everything from dirt to the best. And they process 200 crudes today. Completely resilient, no matter what happens globally. You know, so resilient thinking, scenario-based planning, purpose-driven organization. I was very happy. I always tell young people, it is purpose, perseverance, and passion. Perseverance. It's always too early to give up. Quitters are never winners, winners are never quitters. But what you said, Sanjeev, the big purpose, the North Star, that's extremely sort of important. Then platformization, then becoming digital ready, then fostering self-disruption before the others do it, the climate part of it. You know, frankly, the kind of sustainability model that HUL had, and I remember I had the privilege of sharing the board with C.K. Prahlad, Deepak Pareek, Ram Durai. Can you imagine how much one learned? And we always used to sort of talk about that. Then climate consciousness, and finally autonomous innovation, as you and I are on the same sort of and so far. So I think your lecture is most pertinent, most pertinent. I think it should be heard in every boardroom, and we have sort of so much to learn. And by the way, I loved your combination of humility and ambition. So I'm going to repeat it. Of course, I am a strong believer in IPR, so I will give credit to you all the time that you talk about. So thank you for making this unique. And I must say, Ashokji, your love and affection, absolutely no bound. And I feel greatly privileged. I remember giving the talk in 2015, and all good things have to be repeated. In 2022, I heard a lecture which was 10x better than mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mashelkar. From such humble beginnings to the Padma Vibhushan, you're indeed an inspiration. I hope you've absorbed a great deal of what was shared today. But wait, there is more. We have amongst us Director General of the New Delhi NHRDN, Dr. Dhananjay Singh. It would be lovely to hear from you, sir. Please join us.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you. Good evening. And it's such a privilege to listen to Dr. Mashelkar and Mr. Sanjeev Mehta. Our tributes, heartfelt tributes to late Dr. Udai Pareek. We are really privileged to have Anagatji, Surabhiji among us. I can see Dr. T.V. Rao, Dr. Akhil Busrai, our founder president, our past national president among the participants here. And we have heard our regional president, national president, Mr. Prem Singh, Mr. S. V. Nathan. When you listen to legends like Dr. Mashelkar, Mr. Mehta, you feel that what a potential human beings have. and how much can be achieved. And thank you very much, sirs, for being with the NHRDN, for giving your patronage and being part of the 7th memory lecture here. Dr. Ashok Bapna, Mr. Apurva Kumar, Chairman Clarks, thank you very much for owning this and ensuring that year after year, this creates a new benchmark. And as rightly Dr. Mashelkar said, it will be befitting to have this recording shared with everybody, have their presentations shared with their due permission with the larger audience who are not so privileged to be a part of today's discussion. So once again, with a lot of gratitude, we thank you for doing the honors and being with us. With this, I hand over back the proceedings to our NHRDN Jaipur chapter. Over to all of you, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm elated to have the opportunity to be in the company of such brilliant and creative minds of India. And now, towards the end of the program, I would like to invite Dr. Suresh Padi, Vice Chancellor of Purnima University, to offer the vote of thanks. He also serves as the Secretary of NHRDN's Jaipur chapter. Please join us.
Thank you, Mariam. I take this opportunity on the occasion of 7th Udai Pareek Memorial Oration to propose the vote of thanks. Thank you is such a true prayer that cannot be seen or touched. It must be felt by heart. I feel honored and privileged from the bottom of my heart to get the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. I, on behalf of National HRD Network Headquarters, Jaipur Chapter, and Udai Pareek HRD Research Foundation, convey my heartiest gratitude and sincere thanks to all of those who made it a success by their desirable presence. I extend my gratitude to Honorable Orators Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Chairman and MD, Hindustan Unilever Limited, and Padma Vibhushan Professor Dr. R.A. Masalkar, Indian National Research Professor and President, Global Research Alliance, to take out time from their busy schedule to grace the event. We are thankful to Mr. Sanjeev Mehta for presenting an exemplary oration on leadership and organization in a BANI world, and enlightened us with astounding concepts of leadership organization. Everybody will still remember the transformation of VUCA world to BANI world. Similarly, the talk of Professor Dr. R.A. Masalkar is a true eye-opening session. I thank Dr. Dhananjay Singh, Director General, NHRDN Headquarters, for his immense support and his benevolent contribution towards developing the National HRD Network. I also thank Mr. Prem Singh, Regional President North NHRDN, for his support and contribution. I also take this opportunity to thank Mr. S.B. Nathan for sending his message regarding the contribution of Professor Udai Pareek. I thank the team clerks Amir under the leadership of Mr. Apurva Kumar to their selfless support for the development of NHRD network in general and Jaipur chapter in particular. He is a source of inspiration for each one of us. I also thank IIHMR University, especially Mr. Hem Bhargav and Mr. Arpit Gupta for their selfless support, starting from planning the event, designing the brochure, spreading the awareness, and make it a great success. Mr. Arpit Gupta and his contribution to make this event a great success have been invaluable. Thank you for all your hard work, commitment, and dedication. I take this opportunity to thank Jaipuria Institute of Management, Jaipur, their team members under the leadership of Dr. Prabhat Pankaj for providing unwavering support for making this event a successful one. Same goes with the support of IILM Academy of Higher Learning Jaipur, the committed team members under the leadership of Dr. Vidisha Vyas for their support and voluntary participation. Many universities such as Manipal University, JC University, Purnima University have contributed a lot towards the success of this event. I am thankful to all of them. I thank Madam Mariam for her contribution for making the event a great success. I can certainly clap for her, the outstanding comparing. Finally, I also take this opportunity to thank National HRD Network Jaipur chapter and its executive committee members under the leadership of Professor Dr. Ashok Bapna from designing the event to execution of this event. I am thankful to Professor Bapna and the executive committee members for their remarkable contribution. I acknowledge the unwavering determination and zeal of the National HRD Network Headquarters, Jaipur chapter, and Udai Pareek HRD Research Foundation for conducting this oration. Finally, last not the least, I thank Madam Purohit for bringing this wonderful session to all of us, giving this opportunity to all of us. Thank you, and all the family members of Mr. Udai Pareek.
So, thank you for that. So now it's time where I say farewell, and here's wishing you continued passion for your profession, abundant happiness, and unconditional kindness. Thank you for joining us today from wherever in the country you are. Thank you.
You all are invited for a cup of tea, please. Sanjeev Mehta, can you join us? Thank you, Professor Mashelkar.